Hey everybody, this is Perch. My voice is kind of shot. I've actually been talking. It's right now at 6:15 p.m. Central Time. I've been talking since 5 a.m. So that's the glorious life at times of a consultant turned, evangelist turned speechwriter. I don't know what I am right now. Anyway, all this wraps up in a month or so. Anyway, looking forward to 2024. So, um, where are we at? Um, every now and then people ask me why I like the Legion of Superheroes. And it's a conversation that comes up in comic shops a lot because the Legion of Superheroes, if you are very, very old, you might remember it as a top selling, very important, big comic. But for the majority of people's lives, if you're under the age of, say, 50, the Legion of Superheroes has not had those glory years that some people talk about. Legion of Superheroes tends to be a book that is more niche. It's a book that gets attempted a lot. It's a book that has a lot of different kind of styles and artists and graders and takes. But it's one that has struggled to get over in a big way. And in particular, it should, because the Legion of Superheroes has a massive cast. It's got a ton of legacy lore and continuity to it. It's just got tons and tons and tons of material to it. But the Legion of Superheroes, despite having all those things, has often failed to get to a really powerful, big time audience. So, when one of my favorite eras of Legion of Superheroes was the 5 years later element that Keith Giffen and others helped produce. And that was this idea of a time skip. Now, today in 2024, we've had time skips. We had some stuff has passed and you didn't see it. Moments of after Secret Wars, most recently with Marvel. DC has done it. Everybody has done this. But the when Legion of Superheroes did it, it was newer. And what was so amazing about it was it completely pulled the rug out from under everybody who had been collecting the titles. And it simultaneously allowed for an interesting jumping on point where people could, who were maybe intimidated at the long legacy and history of Legion of Superheroes could come on and, kind of learn with these characters and grow to love them, alongside a lot of the established fans who are busy researching the Easter eggs and the other parts of what the comic was. This was a major moment. But the Legion of Superheroes, when people ask me, why do you like this title? The answer I give is the possibility. And I think that in many ways speaks to the very heart of what comics should be. Comics should be about possibility. Comics should not be predictable. Comics, when you pick them up, should take you in a wild direction that you never knew was possible. Comics should not be bound by things like budget. What I mean by that is, there is no SFX budget. There is no casting budget. You don't have to worry about how do I pay for Tom Cruise to be in this role? It's wide open. Anything is possible in comics, as long as you have an artist and a writer. You can create any world, any moment, anywhere. You can have a team of 500 people or two. It doesn't matter. And the great part about the Legion of Superheroes was it often did both. You had teams of, dozens of people. You had heroes and other people with powers kind of coming out of the woodwork. And it didn't matter. It was all great because anything you could have an issue where you're focusing on a single character. You have another issue where you're focusing on 4. You have another issue where you're focusing on 20. It was every type of possibility you can imagine. The Legion of Superheroes, more than any other book in comics, could be anything at any moment to anyone. That possibility was there. And in addition to that, it had the benefit of being kind of in the future, which means that you don't have to worry about aligning against the Justice League or Superman or the Flash or any of that kind of stuff. You could have it be anything, though. You could blow up planets. It was the most freeing title ever if you have a big imagination. And a lot of the creators and writers and artists in the Legion of Superheroes history did. They built entire worlds where, things were, again, anything was possible. The problem with Legion of Superheroes is twofold. The trap a lot of people fall into is, number one, they would treat the book like it was a nostalgic throwback to the 70s. So they would intentionally make things more goofy, more kitsch. They would not take it seriously. It's why the Legion 5 years later was so amazing. It's because it truly ripped the Band-Aid off of any sense of safety and just let the comic be whatever it could be. There was not this attempt to say, we got to land this with people who, have 1960s sensibilities. We don't have to have family values. We don't have to have any of that stuff. We could really do something crazy. And a lot of cases, people didn't. And so Legion of Superheroes suffered from that. And the other problem that they had is there was too much of the, I know a couple writers who went on Legion of Superheroes who worked on this book. And by and large, the approach they took was, this is going to be the Jetsons, but with superpowers. That was the pitch. And I'll tell you, that's a shitty pitch. The Legion of Superheroes needs to be what it is. Free, dangerous, anything can happen. This is space. You've got a completely new frontier. You have the wreckage and remnants of whatever the past was. You can certainly reference whatever Wonder Woman or Shazam or Superman were up to, but they're long dead or gone. Therefore, you can actually do pretty crazy stories where you get to pick up from amazing things. As a writer, you can easily, casually drop into a comic story saying, here's this planet was once wiped out with the Kryptonian massacre of 3010 or whatever it happens to be. Like, you could just invent crazy apocalypse level events that happened in the past, and no problem. That's what the Legion of Super. And so that promise, that hope, that thing that comic could be was so tempting. And it's why I've always felt like the Legion of Superheroes as a book would be a writer's dream. Anybody coming into DC should beg for that title. Brian Michael Bendis did. He famously did try and beg for that title, and he got it when he came in and did Superman. But he immediately decided to do I'm going to do a Bendis-style book, my style plus Jetsons plus nostalgia. He immediately, did the opposite of what he should do, which is you're free. You don't have to tether it to something in the present. You can make it amazing. You could make it anything. And, this giant cast means no matter what danger you dream up, no matter what villain you dream up, you've got people who are uniquely situated to kind of attack it and deal with it and play with that experiment. And that's, again, like, as a writer, God, what better place to be? Jonathan Hickman, reportedly was being tempted by DC to come in and revive Legion of Superheroes. He instead went and did X-Men. In hindsight, I desperately wish he would have done Legion. It would have been so much, just infinitely better of use for him. He could have done kind of his crazy, dangerous sci-fi type stuff. And on top of that, Legion of Superheroes was never going to be a book where, you're going to have editorial mandate to vomit out another 6 to 8 books in this line. So it would have just been 1 or maybe 2 books in Legion, and you could have made it an epic. Everybody lately who's come into Legion of Superheroes has had a pitch that is a warmed over somebody else's pitch. Meaning, we're going to make it the Jetsons, but with superpowers. We're going to make it Game of Thrones, but space. Those are all terrible ideas. Don't do those things. Instead, don't try and borrow anything. You're in the future. This should be dangerous like aliens. This should be like anything can happen. You've got this massive cast. Hell, I love a lot of these characters, but you can afford to kill off a couple of them. You can make this thing truly a sci-fi epic. You can make it anything you want to. And so when people have asked me, why do you like the Legion of Superheroes? That's why. Because it can be anything. And the best comics in the world can be anything. Thanks for listening.